Good morning, everyone, and a very, very happy Tuesday morning to you all. Pardon me. I hope you guys all had a great Monday. And I really love the idea that this week we are focusing on new beginnings. You know, if you've been following along and if you've been with us since the beginning of May, it's all about taking action and making changes in your life. And you know, when you start clearing the past and when you start deciding what you want for your future, you know, there comes a time where you realise that you've reached the point where you are ready for a new beginning. So that is the focus this week. Now, if by chance you're having a little bit of difficulty, you know, it's not always easy deciding that you're ready for something new. It's not. I understand that. Because you sort of come up with questions like, you know, oh, where do I even start? Hi, Eva. Where do I even start? Or how do I expect this to work out? Or you know, how do I actually get past what's stopping me? So I'm continually trying to come up with different methods and different ways that I can share with you guys on how to release negative energy, how to move on from the past. And so I came up with this recipe. Well, I didn't come up with it. It's a variation on something that I read many, many, many years ago. And in all honesty, I came up with it this morning, and all I could think of was rice. So rice is a term used in first aid, which actually stands for rest, ice, compression, and elevation. So sorry, I am referring to my notes, which are up on my mirror, and I'm not going to turn the camera because it takes a while to get it all adjusted. Anyway, but I am referring to notes up on my mirror behind me, in front of me. So I thought of rice and I went, well, that's a technique in first aid. Now, if you're struggling, maybe you need some first aid. So let's look at rice. Yes, this is how my mind works. And I came up with this idea. Again, it's a variation on something I heard and learnt about many, many, many years ago. So here it is. Now, what will actually happen if you try this method is that you will actually have a really gentle energy release, okay? The energy release technique that I showed you all last week, it can be really intense. You know, hey, Nicole, I kind of underestimated even myself, you know, the effect that it would have on me because, as I mentioned, I did 3 last week. And, you know, once when I did on the Sunday, then once when I showed you guys, and then afterwards that evening I did it again. And for me, that technique is so powerful, it actually whacked me on my ass for the rest of the week. And I kind of went, well, you know, we've got to come up with something that's not as initially debilitating, because that's what it can be. So I thought of this. This method is a gentle release of energy. It's also a way to clear your thoughts. And I reckon the most important part of this is that you get to know yourself. You get to understand yourself that little bit better. And what could be better than that? Understanding how your mind works. Realizing what you do in particular situations. Likening it, using this method, to what you do in life. And it's such a simple way to do it. Now, what I want to share with you is that the learnings from this method start from as soon as you hear what I'm about to show you. Okay? So, I'm going to start. Okay, so I have my trusty Tupperware. Lots of it, because I do love my Tupperware. We're going to start. Here's the recipe. 1/4 cup of white rice. 1/4 cup Don't have a glass of water on the table while you're trying this. Well, that was exciting, wasn't it? A quarter of a cup of brown rice. And mix. Now, if you're really, really, really adventurous, you could add another element. I'm going to chuck in a little bit of black rice, which I love. I'm going to sprinkle some of that in there. And then if you're really, really wanting to get to the bottom of what's going on with you, thanks, guys. I'm going to throw in some red quinoa. Now it's going to, maybe a sprinkle, who knows? And that's about it. And mix. In my bowl. So what's the method? You now sit and you sort them back out into their individual groups. Guys, this kind of thing is often referred to as active meditation. So I'm not great at sitting still. I'm just really not. If I'm sitting still, I'm usually about to fall asleep. So I'm much more fond of active meditation, where you can, you know, your brain is functioning at the same time as you incorporate heart, soul, mind, everything, right? So here's the thing. When you start sorting, as I said, the learning starts from the minute that you're exposed to this concept, this idea, this little recipe, this technique. If you go, what a great idea. Gee, that's really interesting. I might try that. To me, that very clearly indicates that you're open to new experiences. It means that you're ready to try something new to get a different result. Maybe. If you look at this and go, it's ridiculous. What a stupid idea. Then maybe what's going on is that you actually don't realize that simple techniques, simple strategies can be effective. Not everything has to be complicated. And generally, if you sit down and work out what's going on, it's not complicated. You just got to get to the bottom of it. If you sit here and you go, oh my God, what a waste of time. How am I going to sit there for like an hour or however long it's going to take to sort through this bowl of rice? Are you not important enough? Is your life really that busy that you can't give yourself an hour a day to get to know yourself? An hour a day to acknowledge the thoughts going through your head? Or maybe you're just too scared to acknowledge the thoughts going through your head. And you use this bluff and bluster as a way to avoid it, as a way to, strangely enough, Kelly Ray, that was going to be one of my things. You could look at that bowl of rice and go, fuck it, I'm just going to chuck it in the rice cooker, mix it with some tuna and butter, and that's it. I'm having dinner. I'm not going to sit there and sort this out. What's that saying? No offense, Kelly Ray. I completely understand. But, you know, as I said, the learning starts from the minute you're exposed to this idea. What was your initial thought when I started pouring in the rice? Let's discount the fact that I threw a glass of water on the floor, dropped the camera, because do I need to know your thoughts about that? Oh, I have my own thoughts about that, which I'll share with myself after I'm gone, after I finish this video. The next part of the learning process is, how do you actually proceed? So you've got a bowl here, basically, of like a cup and a half of mixed dried grains. Do you just dump the whole thing out on the table and just start picking out the bits that look familiar? Or do you grab a cup, scoop out a bit, put it in a plate, and work on it in bits and pieces? Do you pick out all the really obvious stuff first? You know, the black rice stands out. So maybe I would start with pulling out all the black rice. Then pulling out the quinoa because it stands out. What am I left with then? I'm left with the hard part, which is separating the brown rice from the white rice because it all looks kind of the same. So how do you proceed? If you try this, what's your methodology in even getting started? You know, do you just go in and you don't measure things out, you just chuck it all in a bowl and hope for the best? And then you just throw it all on the table and just start. All of these things, as you proceed with this technique, is letting you learn more about how you approach life. When you start something like this, when you start deciding that you want to change your life, how do you proceed? Do you get all the elements that you need or that you think that you need and then move forward? Or do you just jump in and hope for the best? Or do you do a mix of both? You go, I need this, I need this, I need this. Oh, I don't have this. Am I going to do what I can with what I've got and then seek help? A bit like what I went through on the weekend with designing my website. Spent 18 hours on that thing in one sitting. And then went, what am I doing? There are people out there that are better at this than I am. Why am I busting my balls trying to get this done when there are experts out there who know exactly what to do and can get it done like that? Sure, I might have to pay for the service. Anything worth having? It's worth doling out for. Seriously. Really, it is. Then once you decide how you're going to proceed, how do you actually start? Do you measure it out in doses and sort through that? Or do you dump it all on the table and hope for the best? Do you give yourself, do you allow the time? Do you dump the whole thing out and go, yeah, it'll take me about an hour, and then 3 hours later you're still sitting there? All of these things are helping you understand how your mind works. Guys, the really important part about this is when you are going through the sorting process, having this, it's a little bit like those fidget spinner things that are around for kids these days, right? You're doing something with your brain and your hands, which leaves your mind and your heart free to express themselves. If your brain and your hands, your action takers, Eva, that's the question you need to ask yourself. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you're asking yourself that question, you've already delved into how is my mind working. I think it's a great question. Do you address the hardest first? Do you pick out all of the white rice first, which looks an awful lot like the brown rice? And do you spend time doing that first? It's all questions and answers to how your mind works. And just start the process. Because I guarantee you, the way you start will not be the way you end. Because along the way, you learn an awful lot about yourself. When you're in the sorting process, your mind wanders. Allow those thoughts to come through. If you have a particular issue that you're going through at the moment, or if you have a question that you cannot solve, you can't find an answer to it. Doesn't matter how many times you spin this idea around in your head. Go into this process with that question in mind. Then disengage the brain, disengage action, physical action. Hey, Victoria! And allow your mind and your heart to start speaking. Give it a go, guys. I myself have a couple of hours work to do, and I've decided that instead of having my midday nap, because I actually slept through today, which is kind of cool, Instead of having my midday nap, I'm going to take maybe a quarter, maybe 3/4. Nah, 3/4 is too much. I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of this mix and I'm going to start the sorting process. And I'm going to allow my heart and my mind to speak. I'm going to allow my heart and my mind to tell me what I want, rather than letting my brain gauge how I proceed. If you give this a go, let me know. Let me know the results. I'll let you know my results. I hope that you guys actually look at this process and see the benefit of it, rather than looking at it and going, that's just fucking stupid. If you're looking at it and going, yeah, that's actually something I can do. That's something that makes sense to me. I appreciate that. I love that. It means that you are ready for your new beginnings. You are ready to start looking at life differently. You are ready to claim the life that you actually want. You're ready to be happy. You're ready to have satisfaction in your life. And you're ready to listen to yourself. It's a beautiful thing. Have a fabulous day, and let me know if you try this method. See how you go. So much love to you all, and thank you to everyone who joined in this morning. It's always so beautiful to see the comments come up. Have a great day, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.